Now, okay. Good morning, everyone. First, let's review the last class. Now, the last class we have learned parameters of blood oxygen and the first type, hypoxia, hypotonic hypoxia. Now, first, 4 parameters. The first, partial pressure of oxygen. Now, it includes how many types? Now, partial pressure of oxygen in artery blood and in venous blood. Normal value. Partial pressure of oxygen in artery blood, 100 millimeters. What can determine the partial pressure of oxygen in artery blood? Now, inspired oxygen, external respiration. Now, if inspired oxygen decrease, now partial pressure of oxygen in artery blood will decrease. Now, it decrease. Now, external respiration dysfunction also lead to the parameter decrease. Now, partial pressure of oxygen in venous blood. Now, 60 millimeters mercury. Now, what can influence partial pressure of oxygen in where? Internal respiration. If internal respiration dysfunction, the parameter increase or decrease? I will increase because internal respiration dysfunction, so tissue cell take in oxygen will decrease. So in venous blood, oxygen will increase. So lead to partial pressure of oxygen in venous blood will increase. Now the second, oxygen binding capacity. Now the normal value is now oxygen binding capacity. The normal value is 20 millimeters per 100 millimeters blood. Now, what can influence the parameters? Quality and concentration of hemoglobin. Now, if quality altered, concentration decrease of hemoglobin, now the parameter will decrease. For example, anemia. Now, anemia, concentration of hemoglobin decrease, so the parameter will decrease. Now, carbon monoxide poisoning. Now, altered of quality of hemoglobin, so hemoglobin combined oxygen will decrease. So during carbon monoxide poisoning, now oxygen binding capacity decrease. Now the third, oxygen content in blood. Now it include in 100 millimeters blood. Now combined oxygen and dissolved oxygen. Now the normal value. Oxygen content in artery blood. The normal value is 19. Now, in where? 14. What can influence the parameter? Partial pressure and now partial pressure and the quality and concentration of hemoglobin. Now partial pressure decrease. Now partial pressure less than how many lead to oxygen binding capacity decrease? Partial pressure of oxygen less than 60. Now lead to oxyhemoglobin decrease. So oxygen now lead to oxygen content in artery blood decrease. Now it is oxygen content in artery and in venous blood. Now the other, artery venous difference of oxygen content. The normal value is at 5. It refer to tissue cell take in oxygen from 100 millimeters blood. Now if mitochondrial damage, so tissue cell take in oxygen will decrease. The parameter will decrease. Now it is artery venous difference of oxygen content. It influences the internal respiration. Now the last, oxygen saturation of hemoglobin. Now it is the dissociation curve. Now what can influence it? Now partial pressure of oxygen more than 60. Now saturation normal. Oxygen content in artery blood is normal. Now if partial pressure of oxygen less than 60, so saturation decrease. Now oxyhemoglobin decrease, so oxygen content also decrease. Now what can influence the dissociation curve? 4 factors. Now hydrogen, partial pressure of carbon dioxide, 2,3 dpg, and temperature. If the 4 factors increase, the dissociation curve shift right. Now the 4 factors decrease, the curve shift left. Now shift right or shift left, affinity of hemoglobin for oxygen. Shift left, affinity increase. Because affinity increase, so liberate oxygen to tissue cell will decrease and happen hypoxia. So if hydrogen decrease alkalosis, now partial pressure of oxygen, carbon dioxide decrease, 2,3 dpg decrease, temperature decrease. Now dissociation curve shift left. Now shift left, affinity of hemoglobin for oxygen increase. Now oxyhemoglobin liberate oxygen to tissue cell decrease, so happen hypoxia. So we know alkalosis, glycolysis inhibit, now lead to 2,3 dpg decrease. Now the patient may be hypoxia. Now the first exercise, which parameter reflect the utilization of oxygen in tissue. Now A, B, C, D, E. Utilize oxygen. Now it is include dissolved oxygen and combined oxygen. Now it is oxygen content in where. Now it is referred to oxygen binding capacity. Now it is saturation. Now arteriovenous different oxygen content, which if reflect the tissue cell taking oxygen. Now E. Now the normal value is 5. The second, reflect the relative content of oxygen in 100 milliliters blood. Now, which active content include in 100 milliliters blood, combined oxygen and dissolved oxygen. Now A, understand? Now it's very easy. Now hypoxia is divided into hypotonic hypoxia. It also called hypoxic hypoxia. The character is partial pressure of oxygen in artery blood decrease. The second, hemic hypoxia. Now circulatory hypoxia and heterogeneous hypoxia. We have learned the first hypotonic hypoxia. Now hypotonic hypoxia, what decrease? Hypotonic, dissolved oxygen produce the pressure or tension. Now parcel pressure less than 100 millimeters mercury. Now, hypotonic hypoxia, parcel pressure decrease. What can lead to hypotonic hypoxia? Etiology include three. Now, inspired oxygen pressure decrease, external respiration dysfunction. The last, artery venous sat, venous to artery sat, venous to artery sat. Now, characteristics of blood oxygen. Now, in hypotonic hypoxia, parcel pressure decrease. It less than 60, so saturation also decrease. Now, oxyhemoglobin decrease, so combined oxygen decrease, oxygen content decrease. Now, because hemoglobin is normal, so oxygen binding capacity normal. Now, arteriovenous sat decrease. All normal. Normal refer to chronic hypoxia. For example, the people lived in very high mountain. Now, it is characteristic of blood oxygen. Now, mechanism. Why arteriovenous sat and now arteriovenous difference of oxygen content decrease? Now, because it is small artery. Now it is small vein. Now blood from artery to vein. Now it is capillary. During the capillary, oxygen move into the tissue cell. Why move into the tissue cell? Because in tissue cell, oxygen is utilized. So in tissue cell, parcel pressure of oxygen is less than in capillary blood. So oxygen move into the tissue cell. Understand? Now, amount of oxygen obtaining in tissue is determined by difference of parcel pressure oxygen now between blood and the tissue cell. If difference small, so oxygen move into the tissue cell will more. Now the difference, the parcel pressure of oxygen, now the difference if less, so oxygen move into the tissue cell will less. Understand? Now during the hypotonic hypoxia, the difference more or less? Less. Because parcel pressure during the hypotonic hypoxia, parcel pressure in blood decrease. So difference between blood and the tissue cell less. So oxygen move into the tissue cell will less. Now which parameter decrease? Arteriovenous difference of oxygen content will decrease. Now maybe less than 5, maybe 4, maybe 3. Now it is hypotonic hypoxia. Now, hypotonic hypoxia, what color of skin? Now, in our blood, hemoglobin combined oxygen is called oxyhemoglobin. Now, can't combine the oxygen, deoxyhemoglobin. Now, in normal blood, oxyhemoglobin is more than deoxyhemoglobin because saturation is normal saturation is 97 to percentage. So oxyhemoglobin mole, deoxyhemoglobin normal is less than 2.6 gram in 100 millimeters blood. Now, if oxyhemoglobin decrease, so deoxyhemoglobin will increase. Now, if deoxyhemoglobin is more than 5 gram in 100 millimeters blood, now the color of skin is bluish. It's called cyanosis. Now, what is cyanosis? If the concentration of deoxyhemoglobin in blood in capillary is more than 5 gram in 100 millimeters blood, the color of skin, nail, lips, and the mucous membranes are bluish. It's called cyanosis. Now the definition, you might remember what is cyanosis. Cyanosis, deoxyhemoglobin more than 5 gram in 100 millimeters blood. Now, during the hypotonic hypoxia, oxyhemoglobin or deoxyhemoglobin, which increase. Now, deoxyhemoglobin increase, oxyhemoglobin decrease, because hypotonic hypoxia, pulse pressure less than 60. So during the hypotonic hypoxia, now saturation decrease. So oxyhemoglobin decrease and the deoxyhemoglobin increase. So hypotonic hypoxia, have cyanosis or no cyanosis? Now have cyanosis. Now the color of the skin is bluish. Now it is now the patient, now lip and the nail is bluish. It's called cyanosis. Now, if the patient happen foreign body intrachea, so happen hypotonic hypoxia. Now the patient color is bluish. Now, because happen hypotonic hypoxia, deoxyhemoglobin increase. Now, edema, pulmonary edema. Now, experiment we will do pulmonary edema. The rabbit lip is cyanosis. Pulmonary edema, external respiration dysfunction, so happen hypotonic hypoxia. So the rabbit lip is cyanosis, hypercyanosis. The color is bluish. Now, because deoxyhemoglobin increase. Now it is the first type hypoxia, hypotonic. It also called hypoxic hypoxia. Now you might remember the type hypoxia definition. What is hypotonic hypoxia? Now it refers to characteristics of pulse pressure of oxygen in artery blood decrease. Etiology includes 3. Inspired oxygen pulse pressure decrease, external respiration dysfunction. Now, venous to artery shock. Now the next, you might remember the characteristics of blood parameters of blood. Pulse pressure decrease, saturation decrease, oxygen content decrease, artery venous difference of oxygen content decrease. Now what normal? Oxygen binding capacity normal. Now color of skin and cyanosis, deoxyhemoglobin more than 5 gram, 100 millimeters blood. Now color is bluish. Now it is the first type of hypoxia, hypotonic hypoxia. Now the next, the second, hemic hypoxia. It also called isotonic hypoxia. Now it called isotonic hypoxia, so we know partial pressure of oxygen increase, decrease, or normal. Normal. So it called isotonic hypoxia. Now the definition, hemic hypoxia refer to the altered affinity of hemoglobin for oxygen or decrease in concentration of hemoglobin in the blood. So during the hemic hypoxia, maybe concentration of hemoglobin decrease. For example, anemia. Now maybe altered of affinity of hemoglobin for oxygen. For example, carbon monoxide poisoning. Hemoglobin combined oxygen decrease. So from the definition we know now quality and the concentration of hemoglobin decrease. So which parameters will decrease? So which parameters decrease? Oxygen binding capacity decrease. Now hemoglobin combined oxygen decrease. So oxygen content decrease. Which normal? Partial pressure of oxygen in artery blood is normal. So we know during the hemic hypoxia, oxygen content in artery blood decrease. Partial pressure of oxygen is normal. Oxygen binding capacity decrease. Now etiology include anemia, carbon monoxide poisoning, and methemoglobinemia. Now include three. Now you might remember now the pathogenesis of carbon monoxide poisoning and methemoglobinemia lead to hypoxia. Now the first anemia, very easy. Anemia, concentration or quality altered. Concentration of hemoglobin decrease. So hemoglobin combined oxygen decrease, supply oxygen decrease, and hypoxia. It refers to concentration of hemoglobin decrease. Now color. What color? Because hemoglobin decrease, so the color of is pale. Now the color of nail, now of lip, now is pale. Now it is anemia. No anemia. So you observe the nail. Now you observe the nail. Now press first press. Now it's pale. Now when recover, now will become red. Now it is normal. Now it is anemia. Now carbon monoxide poisoning might lead to hemic hypoxia. You all know anemia. Now if have anemia, now we are stronger or weak. Because hypoxia, now produced ATP will decrease. Now, carbon monoxide poisoning may also lead to hypoxia. Now, if the patient inspires the carbon monoxide, now carbon monoxide move into the alveoli and next move into the capillary blood, pulmonary capillary blood. Now, in blood, hemoglobin. Now, carbon monoxide can combine with hemoglobin and form carboxy hemoglobin. Carboxy hemoglobin can't carry the oxygen, so supply oxygen decrease and happen hypoxia. Now, affinity of hemoglobin for carbon monoxide is very more than hemoglobin for oxygen, maybe 20 and 10 times. So, affinity of hemoglobin for carbon monoxide is more than affinity hemoglobin for oxygen, maybe 210 times. So if very little, now carboxy hemoglobin liberate very difficult. So we know if we inspired a little carbon monoxide, so carbon monoxide with hemoglobin from carboxy hemoglobin, so the carboxy hemoglobin can't liberate very slowly. So if inspired a little carbon monoxide, maybe happen hypoxia. Now, because affinity more, carboxy hemoglobin liberate slowly, so hemoglobin can't carry the oxygen. Now, maybe happen hypoxia. It is the first pathogenesis. The next, carboxy hemoglobin can inhibit glycolysis. Now, it inhibits glycolysis, so the next produce 2,3-DPG will decrease. So the next we know the saturation curve shift left. Now, affinity of hemoglobin for oxygen increase. So in the tissue capillary, oxyhemoglobin liberate oxygen difficult. So oxygen move into the tissue cell, decrease, and happen hypoxia. Now it is pathogenesis of carbon monoxide poisoning lead to hypoxia. Now the pathogenesis include two. You might remember the pathogenesis. Now maybe short question. Now first, carbon monoxide and hemoglobin form carboxy hemoglobin. Carboxy hemoglobin liberate very slowly. Affinity of hemoglobin for oxygen is more than hemoglobin for carboxy. Affinity of hemoglobin for carbon monoxide is more than for oxygen. So lead to hemoglobin carry the oxygen decrease and the supply oxygen decrease and happen hypoxia. The second, carbon monoxide poisoning. Carbon monoxide can inhibit glycolysis and lead to 2,3-DPG decrease and dissociation curve shift left. Affinity of hemoglobin for oxygen increase. So in the tissue capillary blood, oxyhemoglobin liberate oxygen is difficult. So oxygen move into the tissue cell, decrease. also hypoxia. Now, it leads to affinity increase. Now, it is carbon monoxide poisoning. Now, you might remember. Color of skin. Now, the color of skin reflects the color of blood. So, in the carbon monoxide poisoning, in the blood, produce carboxyhemoglobin. Now, carboxyhemoglobin color is cherry red. So, carbon monoxide poisoning, the patient color of skin is cherry red. Now, it is carbon monoxide poisoning. Hemoglobinemia. Now, ferrous state in hemoglobin may be oxidized to ferric state and action of oxidizer. Now, forming hemoglobinemia. Now, during the blood, ferrous state or ferric state can carry the oxygen. Which can carry the oxygen? Now, ferrous state. Now, 2. Now, ferrous state can carry the oxygen. Now, ferrous state can carry the oxygen, or ferric state can't carry the oxygen. Now, if oxidizer lead to ferrous state from ferric state, so the hemoglobin can't carry the oxygen, so lead to hypoxia. Now, nitrate poisoning. Nitrate is oxidizer, so it can lead to ferrous state of hemoglobin from a ferric state of hemoglobin and from hemogloblin. Now, it's called hemogloblin. Now, because hemogloblin can't carry the oxygen. Now, nitrate poisoning lead to hypoxia, the second pathogenesis. Now, one hemoglobin have 4 ferrous state. If one ferrous state from ferric state, the other ferrous state can carry the oxygen, but affinity increase. So liberate oxygen will difficult. So oxygen move into the tissue cell will decrease. So also hypoxia. Now it is nitrate poisoning, hemoglobinemia lead to hypoxia. The pathogenesis also include 2. First, nitrate is oxidizer, so lead to ferrous state of hemoglobin from a ferric state. Ferric state can't carry the oxygen, so supply oxygen decrease. Now, the other, one hemoglobin have 4 ferrous state. If one ferrous state from ferric state, the other ferrous state can carry the oxygen, but affinity for oxygen increase. So in the tissue capillary blood, oxyhemoglobin liberate oxygen will decrease. Oxygen move into the tissue cell will decrease. So hypoxia. Now it is hemic hypoxia, include 3. First, anemia, concentration of hemoglobin decrease. Carbon monoxide poisoning. Now, first from carboxyhemoglobin, the next lead to glycolysis decrease, and lead to affinity of hemoglobin for oxygen increase. Now, the last, hemoglobinemia. Now, nitrate can lead to ferrous state from ferric state. The other ferrous state carry the oxygen, can carry the oxygen, but affinity increase, so also lead to hypoxia. Now, the color of methemoglobinemia. What color? In blood from ferric state. Ferric state color is coffee. Now, so methemoglobinemia, color of skin, the patient is coffee. Because in the blood from ferric state. Ferric state is color, chemistry. Now, it is coffee. Now, characteristic alteration of blood oxygen. Now characteristic alteration of blood oxygen. Now it is hypotonic hypoxia. Now review. Pulse pressure decrease, oxygen binding capacity normal, saturation decrease, oxygen content decrease. After the venous difference of oxygen content decrease or normal. Now because compensation, now the chronic hypoxia. Now hemic hypoxia, because anemia, carbon monoxide poisoning, and methemoglobinemia, inspect oxygen normal, external respiration normal, so pulse pressure of oxygen normal. Now, oxygen binding capacity decrease or normal, it refers to carbon monoxide poisoning. Now, the parameter refer to under standard condition. Now, if the carbon monoxide poisoning the patient blood under standard condition very longer time, so carboxyhemoglobin, because under standard condition, now because time very longer, so carboxyhemoglobin can liberate, so lead to the normal, the parameter is normal. Now because pulse pressure normal, so saturation normal. Now oxygen content, it refer to active. Now oxyhemoglobin decrease, because hemoglobin concentration decrease. Now altered of hemoglobin, quality and concentration of hemoglobin altered, so lead to oxyhemoglobin decrease. So oxygen content in artery blood decrease. Now arterial venous difference of oxygen content decrease. Now it decrease. Now also because oxygen content in artery blood, it decrease. So the next will lead to pulse pressure of oxygen in capillary blood decrease, will lead to decrease. Now difference of pulse pressure of oxygen between blood and the tissue cell, the difference will less or more. Pulse pressure of oxygen difference between blood and the tissue cell, the difference will less or more. I will less, because during the capillary blood, pulse pressure decrease, so the difference will less. Difference less, so oxygen move into the tissue cell will decrease, so lead to arteriovenous difference of oxygen content will decrease. Now maybe less than 5. Now, it is characteristics of hemic hypoxia. Now, hemic hypoxia, partial pressure normal, oxygen binding capacity decrease. During the carbon monoxide is normal, oxygen content decrease. Now, arteriovenous side of oxygen. Arteriovenous difference of oxygen content also decrease. So hypoxia. Now, it is hemic hypoxia. Now, what color of hemic hypoxia? Anemia is pale. Carbon monoxide poisoning, cherry red. Now, methemoglobinemia or nitrate poisoning, egg coffee. Now, hypotonic hypoxia, hypotonic blues, hypercyanosis. Now, cyanosis refer to deoxyhemoglobin more than 5 grams, 100 millimeters blood. Now, it is hypotonic hypoxia and hemic hypoxia. Now, hemic hypoxia, hypotonic hypoxia, hypocyanosis. Now, hypocyanosis, the patient may be hypoxia. Now, hypoxia, the patient may be hypocyanosis. Now, relation of cyanosis and hypoxia. Now, hypoxia must hypocyanosis. Hypocyanosis must hypoxia. Yes or no? Oh no. Now take a break. The next I will explain. Now, relation of cyanosis and hypoxia. Now, relation of cyanosis and hypoxia. Now, hypoxia must have cyanosis. Have cyanosis must happen hypoxia. Now, no. Now, hemoglobin, concentration of hemoglobin. Now we know if deoxyhemoglobin is more than 5 grams in 100 milliliters blood, so must happen cyanosis. The color is bluish. Now cyanosis, which lead to cyanosis, deoxyhemoglobin increase. Now if oxyhemoglobin decrease, so supply oxygen decrease and happen hypoxia. So first, you must know deoxyhemoglobin more and happen cyanosis. Oxyhemoglobin decrease and happen hypoxia. Now the patient have hypoxia but no cyanosis. What can lead to hypoxia but no cyanosis? Anemia. Now, why anemia? The patient have cyanosis or no, have hypoxia or no cyanosis. Anemia. During the anemia, have hypoxia but no cyanosis. Understand? Now, why? Anemia, concentration of hemoglobin. Now, anemia, why? Anemia which decrease. Hemoglobin concentration decrease. So, lead to deoxyhemoglobin. Now it's oxyhemoglobin during the anemia because concentration of hemoglobin decrease. So lead to oxyhemoglobin decrease. Deoxyhemoglobin may be normal, may be decrease. Understand? So the patient have cyanosis or no cyanosis. Have or no? No cyanosis. Oxyhemoglobin decrease. So have hypoxia or no hypoxia? Have hypoxia. Understand? So during the anemia, because concentration of hemoglobin decrease, so the patient oxyhemoglobin decrease and have hypoxia, but the patient deoxyhemoglobin may be normal, may be decrease, so no cyanosis. So the patient of anemia have hypoxia but no cyanosis. Now the second type, cyanosis, maybe have cyanosis but no hypoxia. What can lead to it? Now, disease of growth in quantity of hemoglobin. Now, the disease, what happened? Concentration of hemoglobin increase. Because hemoglobin increase, so the patient oxyhemoglobin and the deoxyhemoglobin, what happened? Now, the patient deoxyhemoglobin. Understand or no? The first or the second? Second, a disease. The disease. The patient concentration of hemoglobin is more than normal. So the patient hemoglobin increase. Because hemoglobin increase, so the patient deoxyhemoglobin increase. Oxyhemoglobin may be normal or increase very, very slightly. Understand? Now, so the patient, because deoxyhemoglobin increase, so have cyanosis or no? I have cyanosis. Understand? Now, the patient oxyhemoglobin is normal, so have hypoxia or no? No hypoxia. Understand? So the type refer to the patient have cyanosis but no hypoxia. The first have hypoxia, no cyanosis. For example, anemia. The second have cyanosis, no hypoxia. For example, a disease of growth of quantity of hemoglobin. Refer to the patient hemoglobin is more. Now it is the second. Understand? Now the last, what happened? Now the first, the hemoglobin decrease. The second, the patient hemoglobin increase. Now the last, you know, hemoglobin normal. The patient have cyanosis and have hypoxia. Which? Now the first, for example, anemia. The second, disease of growing quantity of hemoglobin. Now the last, the patient have cyanosis and have hypoxia. Hemoglobin concentration is normal. What can? Now we have learned which types of hypoxia lead to the patient have cyanosis, have hypoxia, concentration of hemoglobin is normal. Which? If the patient move into the very, very high mountain, now external respiration dysfunction, pulmonary edema, fibrosis, now foreign body in Turkey. So the last refer to hypotonic hypoxia. Now the patient have cyanosis and have hypoxia. Now because the patient hemoglobin is normal. Now hemoglobin is normal, but pulse pressure decrease, so lead to oxyhemoglobin decrease. Because hemoglobin is normal, so deoxyhemoglobin increase. So the patient have cyanosis and have hypoxia. Now it is a relation of cyanosis and hypoxia. Now, so some people maybe have cyanosis, no hypoxia. Maybe have hypoxia, no cyanosis. Now maybe both cyanosis and hypoxia. Now you can example. Now the first have hypoxia, no cyanosis. For example, anemia. Understand? Now the second have cyanosis but no hypoxia. For example, disease of quantity of hemoglobin increase. The last have hypoxia and have cyanosis. For example, hypotonic hypoxia. Now the three. Now relation of cyanosis and hypoxia. Now maybe hypoxia, no cyanosis. Maybe have cyanosis, no hypoxia. Nonetheless, both hypoxia and cyanosis. Now it is relation of cyanosis and hypoxia. Understand? Now you can explain it, okay. Now the three explain. Now hemoglobin increase, hypercyanosis. Oxyhemoglobin decrease and hypoxia. Now if deoxyhemoglobin normal, now you know cyanosis. Now oxyhemoglobin is normal, no hypoxia. Understand? Now it is relation. Now we have learned two types of hypoxia. The third, circulatory hypoxia. Now it also hypocantic hypoxia. Now definition, it refers to inadequate blood flow lead to inadequate oxygenation of the tissue. So it also called hypocantic hypoxia. Now during the circulatory hypoxia, which decrease tissue blood flow, blood flow decrease. Now blood flow of tissue decrease. Parameter, arteriovenous and arteriovenous difference of oxygen content increase. It increase. Now during the hypotonic hypoxia, during the hemic hypoxia, the parameter increase or decrease? They decrease. Now during the circulatory hypoxia, arteriovenous difference of oxygen content increase. Now it increase. Why happen hypoxia? Now you might remember it refer to tissue cell take in oxygen from how many blood? 100 millimeters blood. Now supply oxygen refer to all the blood. If all the blood volume decrease, so supply oxygen may be decreased. Now the next we will learn. Now during the circulatory hypoxia, blood flow of tissue decrease. Now what can lead to circulatory hypoxia? Now tissue ischemia and tissue congestion. Now tissue ischemia. What can lead to tissue ischemia? Now it is capillary, it is artery, it is vein. Now if now block the artery, so will lead to ischemia or congestion. Ischemia. If block in vein, so congestion. Understand? Now, so during the shock or heart failure, so cardiac output will decrease. So blood flow to the tissue blood to the tissue will decrease. So happen ischemia. Now congestion. Increased venous pressure can block the blood flow. Now happen congestion. Now right heart failure, venous embolism. Right heart failure, why lead to congestion? Right heart failure, so right heart contractility decrease. so lead to pressure of right heart increase, so venous return decrease, so lead to a lot of blood stored in capillary, so happen congestion or ischemia congestion. So right heart failure lead to congestion, Now, left heart failure. Now, right heart failure lead to congestion. Now, left heart failure, congestion in lung lead to pulmonary congestion. Understand? So maybe happen now right heart failure, now left heart failure lead to pulmonary congestion and pulmonary edema. Now right heart failure, which happen edema? Where happen edema? First, where happen edema? Right heart failure. Where first happen edema? Foot and leg. Understand? Because capillary pressure increase. Now, left heart failure happen pulmonary edema. Now, it is congestion, tissue congestion. Now, characteristic alteration of blood oxygen. Now, during the circulatory hypoxia, because inspired oxygen is normal, internal respiration is normal, so pulse pressure normal. Now, hemoglobin normal, so oxygen content, oxygen binding capacity is normal. Now, saturation also normal. Now, oxygen content in artery blood normal. So, the 4 parameters is normal. Now, what increase or decrease? Artery venous difference of oxygen content increase. It increase, so lead to oxygen content in vein decrease. Understand? So during the circulatory hypoxia, now oxygen content in vein decrease. In arterial, it's normal. Artery venous difference of oxygen content increase. Why it increase? Now, it is artery, it is vein. Now the blood from artery and from the capillary and the next vein. During the capillary, so oxygen move into the tissue cell. Now during the circulatory hypoxia, ischemia or congestion, for example, shock, for example, heart failure, because blood flow, the tissue decrease or increase. Now, congestion or ischemia, blood flow quickly or slowly? Very slowly. So, the same 100 millimeters blood. 100 millimeters blood. For example, 100 millimeters blood flow from the artery to vein. So during the capillary, blood flow the capillary 100 millimeters blood, the time is less than or more than normal. Because blood flow slowly, so 100 millimeters blood flow the capillary, the time will more than normal, will longer. Understand? and the time will longer. So oxygen move into the tissue cell. Now more than or less than normal. Will more than normal. Now normal. How many oxygen move into the tissue cell? 100 millimeters blood. 5. Now 5 millimeters. Now normal 5 in 100 millimeters blood, 5 oxygen move into the tissue cell. So during the circulatory hypoxia, because blood flows slowly, so in 100 millimeters blood, more than 5 millimeters oxygen move into the tissue cell. So the parameter artery venous difference of oxygen content increase or decrease? It will increase. Understand? Increase or decrease? Now, the parameter refer to in 100 millimeters blood, oxygen move into the tissue cell. Now, the normal 100 millimeters blood, how many oxygen move into the tissue cell? Normal. 5 millimeters oxygen move into the tissue cell. Now during the circulatory hypoxia, because blood flow slowly, now oxygen move in, now 100 millimeters blood in capillary, the time will longer. So more oxygen move into the tissue cell. So the parameter increase or decrease? Increase. So during the circulatory hypoxia, shock, heart failure, maybe 6, maybe 7 oxygen move into the tissue cell. Now you must remember how many blood? 100 millimeters blood. So during the circulatory hypoxia, in 100 millimeters blood, maybe 6, maybe 7 millimeters oxygen move into the tissue cell. So artery venous oxygen difference, oxygen content increase. So the parameter maybe 6, maybe 7, maybe 8. Now why the parameter increase? Why happen hypoxia? Because blood flow decrease. So gross supply oxygen decrease. Now blood flow of tissue decrease. Now so gross supply of oxygen decrease. Now in 100 millimeters blood, oxygen move into the tissue cell is more than, but blood flow to tissue cell, gross blood decrease. So gross supply oxygen also decrease. In normal body, now the tissue cell supply oxygen for tissue cell. Now the blood flow the tissue. Now all the blood, not only 100 millimeters blood. Understand? So artery venous difference of oxygen content in circulatory hypoxia, it increase, but because blood flow of tissue decrease, so gross supply of oxygen also decrease. So the patient also happen hypoxia. So during the circulatory hypoxia, now artery venous difference of oxygen content increase, but also happen hypoxia because gross supply of oxygen decrease. Now it is because it decreases, so in where oxygen, in where venous blood, in 100 millimeters venous blood, oxygen decrease. So oxygen content in venous blood decrease. Now color. What color? If it's ischemia, now ischemia color is pale. Now congestion. If hypercongestion, so the color is now congestion. So 100 millimeters blood stayed in capillary will more. So oxygen move into the tissue cell will more. So in the capillary blood, oxygen less. So oxyhemoglobin decrease. Deoxyhemoglobin in the capillary blood will increase. So congestion. What color? Cyanosis, bluish. Now if block the finger, happen congestion. So after minutes, so will happen cyanosis. The color is bluish. Now it is congestion. Now no ischemia. Now congestion more, not ischemia. Congestion more. Now it is cyanosis. Now color of the circulatory hypoxia. If ischemia lead to circulatory hypoxia, color is pale. If congestion lead to circulatory hypoxia, color is cyanosis, bluish. Now it is the 3 types hypoxia. The last, ketogenous hypoxia. Disoxidative hypoxia. Now ketogenous hypoxia, supply oxygen normal, but utilize oxygen decrease. Now it refers to the oxygen is supply adequate to the tissue, where the tissue cell can't make use of the oxygen supply to them. Now ketogenous hypoxia utilize oxygen decrease, supply oxygen is normal. Now, so we know characters arteriovenous difference of oxygen content decrease because utilize decrease. So utilize decrease. So take in oxygen now also decrease. So arteriovenous difference of oxygen content decrease. So during the ketogenous hypoxia, artery now oxygen content in where? Increase or decrease? Increase. Understand? Because it decrease, so lead to in where? Increase. Now, in the circulatory hypoxia, arteriovenous difference of oxygen content increase. Now oxygen content in where? Decrease. Now during the ketogenous hypoxia, arteriovenous difference of oxygen content decrease. So oxygen content in venous blood increase. Now maybe more than how many? Now the normal oxygen content in where? The normal is 40. So the patient may be 50, maybe 60. Now etiology of ketogenous hypoxia. Now the first, inhibit of mitochondria oxidative phosphorylation. Now, in mitochondrial, phosphorylation can produce ATP and use oxygen. Now, mitochondrial injury. Now, absence of vitamin. Now, the first, now inhibit phosphorylation. For example, potassium cyanide. Potassium cyanide can lead to the patient die because happen his the genus hypoxia. Now can't utilize oxygen, so produce ATP decrease. Now if no ATP, now heart cardiac contractility may decrease. Now so the patient may be die quickly. Now mitochondrial injury. Now phosphorylation utilize oxygen in mitochondrial. So mitochondrial damage, so can't utilize oxygen. And so now the last, absence of vitamin. Now for example, lack of vitamin B, B1, B2, and vitamin PP. Now vitamin B, cofactor of pyruvic acid, decarboxylase, so lead to produce ATP decrease. Vitamin B2, composed of flavin, now vitamin PP, now composed of NAD. Now characteristic alteration of blood oxygen. Now the first, ketogenous hypoxia. Now it is same circulatory. Now passive pressure of oxygen normal. Now oxygen binding capacity normal. Oxygen content in artery normal. Oxygen saturation normal. But arteriovenous difference of oxygen content decrease. Oxygen content in venous blood increase. Why arteriovenous difference of oxygen content decrease? Now because oxygen content in artery blood normal or decrease? Very normal. But tissue cell can't utilize oxygen. So lead to in oxygen pressure in tissue cell normal or decrease or increase. So the next will lead to difference, passive pressure of oxygen difference between blood and tissue cell. The difference more or less because tissue cell can't utilize oxygen, so lead to oxygen pressure in tissue cell will more. Not utilize oxygen, so in tissue cell oxygen will more. Oxygen more, so lead to difference between blood and the tissue cell. The difference will less. Difference less, so oxygen move into the tissue cell will less, will decrease. So arteriovenous difference of oxygen content decrease. No, it is capillary blood, so oxygen move into the tissue cell. During the ketogenous hypoxia, because, for example, mitochondrial damage, so can't utilize oxygen. Now, because can't utilize oxygen, so in tissue cell, oxygen where is more than normal. During normal, oxygen in mitochondrial will be utilized because mitochondrial damage, so utilize oxygen decrease. So in the tissue cell, oxygen will more, because in tissue cell, oxygen pressure is more than normal, so lead to difference between blood and tissue cell. The difference will decrease or increase. The difference during normal oxygen pressure in blood is more than tissue cell. Now have difference. If the difference more, oxygen from blood move into the tissue cell will more. Now during the heterogeneous hypoxia, because the difference less, so oxygen move into the tissue cell will decrease. So the parameter will decrease. So during the heterogeneous hypoxia, the parameter may be 4, maybe 3. Normal is 5. So it is now because oxygen move into the tissue cell, decrease. So in where oxygen will more. So oxygen content in venous blood will increase. Now it is now during the heterogeneous hypoxia, color of skin. What color? Now because we know oxygen move into the tissue cell decrease. So in the capillary blood, oxygen will more. Oxygen more, so deoxyhemoglobin or oxyhemoglobin, which more? Oxyhemoglobin in the capillary blood will more than normal. So the patient blood color now similar to venous blood or arterial blood. Arterial blood. Now the color is called pink red flash or rosy. Now, it is also called the pink red flash. Now the color like rose. Now, now we have learned 4 types hypoxia. Now you might remember the first hypoxia. Now hypertonic hypoxia. Etiology of hypertonic hypoxia. Characteristics of hypertonic hypoxia. Color. Cyanosis. Hemic hypoxia. You might remember pathogenesis of carbon monoxide poisoning and methylglobinemia nitrate poisoning. You might remember color. Now, circulatory hypoxia. You might remember during the circulatory hypoxia, arteriovenous difference oxygen content increase. And why it increase? Hypoxia. Now color, ischemia is pale, congestion, cyanosis, blues. The last, heterogeneous hypoxia. Supply oxygen is normal, but utilize oxygen decrease. So arteriovenous difference decrease. Arteriovenous oxygen content in where now is increase. Now color is pink red plus. Now the color similar to rose. It's like rose color. Now we have learned 4 types hypoxia. Now you can do it very easy. Yeah. Now the quiz I will in Ding Ding. Now after class, I will put the quiz in Ding Ding. Now, which it read about director of blood oxygen in the ketogenous hypoxia. Now, ketogenous hypoxia. No, 这个不对。Ketogenous hypoxia, which not D, the last not D, no, the last is E. 那怎么都是 D 了 ？2 Ds, all 2 Ds. Now the last not G, it is E. Now it is E. Now the first is artery-venous difference of oxygen content. It decrease. Not the last. Not the last. Now, okay. Now you might do it. Now over, class over.
And circulatory hypoxia, I don't understand. Which this one?
Circulatory hypoxia. Wait. Cloud. Understand? Now you will have cloud. Macro thrombus. Macro thrombus. Now block the weir. So hypercongestion. Understand? So winners now block. So winners return decrease. Now a lot of blood in hypercongestion.
Okay, so let's see. If there's a lot of blood here, that means that okay, but how does let's say a lot of blood is here, but how will you stop how will it cause hypoxia?
Hypoxia. No, hypoxia because congestion. You say congestion. So blood in capillary more. Yes or no? But the blood flow quickly or slowly? Very, very slowly. Because flow slowly can't flow to the lung. Can't carry oxygen. So supply oxygen.